In Australia, and indeed other parts of the Western world, so-called social cohesion is on a knife's edge. You can feel a sense of unease gripping society. The ABC reported in August how extremism and foreign interference threaten Australian social cohesion. In September, The Age ran the headline, "Australia's cohesion is fraying. If we're not careful, it may shatter." While just this week, SBS noted, Royal Commission into the Bondi terror attack to focus on antisemitism and social cohesion. So clearly, social cohesion is not only hanging by a thread. If we're not careful, we'll quickly go from social cohesion to total tribalism and societal dysfunction. But what is the biggest threat to social cohesion? What is causing this social discord and polarisation? Many of you might think that it's immigration, that the government is allowing people in from societies with adamantly opposing views on key social issues. For example, the spillover from the conflict in the Middle East. Essentially, we're enabling global conflicts to infiltrate local communities. And I agree, this is certainly a major threat to social cohesion. Others might argue that it's simply the sheer volume of people putting pressure on housing, hospitals and infrastructure. And certainly this is a valid concern. If Australians can't find secure, affordable housing, disunity is the natural result. But I would argue that the biggest threat to social cohesion isn't an external one, but rather a homegrown problem. The constant attacks by the media and our institutions on traditional Australian values. By attacking those values, you're essentially attacking the majority. We're allowing the radical fringe, activists and academic elites to trash Australian society, all in the name of what? Diversity? Australia Day is the most obvious target. The activists in their ivory towers know that if you want to attack Australian values, you start with the National Day. It's getting worse every year. For example, look at the University of Melbourne, Australia's #1 ranked university. On their Celebrating Our Diversity page, they list everything. International Women's Day, Transgender Day of Visibility, NAIDOC Week, Lunar New Year, Ramadan, and even International Day of Yoga. But there's no mention of Australia Day. Apparently, including regular Australians in a diversity celebration is not encouraged. They do still mention Anzac Day and Christmas Day. They haven't quite built up the courage to cancel those yet. And if you think this is just an oversight, think again. Down at the bottom, they note that their source is the Department of Home Affairs. If you click that link, you can see the government officially includes 26th of January, Australia Day. Melbourne University has intentionally scrubbed it. It seems you're encouraged to celebrate every culture on Earth, except the one you're currently standing in. Of course, these universities often publish pieces such as Navigating Whiteness in Australia's Anti-Racism Movement by Women of Colour Scholars. Naturally, the usual suspects are all there: systemic racism, the dominance of white institutional actors, and the ever-popular white saviorism. It's textbook racism, but in the upside-down world of modern academia, if the target is the majority, it doesn't count. Or look at the Macquarie University website. Predators and Perpetrators, Cultures of White Settler Violence in So-Called Australia. They note a culture of white violence toward Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples occurs both offline and online, all through the lens of Indigenous, queer and feminist analysis. In Australia's finest institutions, being of European descent is no longer an identity. It's a moral failing. These institutions are not just annoying or woke, they're the actual architects of the social friction currently gripping the country. When our top universities frame the majority as the perpetrator, is it any wonder that social cohesion is fraying? But the average Joe typically doesn't have any dealings with these universities or their learned academics. He only has to deal with the trickle-down effects of their ideology. For example, one common grievance that many average people have to deal with is finding a job. And as many of you are aware, job ads are increasingly feeling the suffocating grip of these diversity mandates. Thank you to all the viewers who sent in many of these examples. Here's one on Australia's largest job site, Seek. Looking at the promotional photo, the target demographic is immediately clear, and it certainly isn't Caucasian men. This is a part-time job at Perth Airport for an aviation protection officer. You'd think a security role like that would be open to anyone capable of doing the work, right? Wrong. The ad states, ISS invites female-identifying individuals to join our team. They hide this blatant discrimination behind the legal shield of diversity and special measures. They used to have a simpler word for female-identifying individuals. What was it again? Oh, that's right, women. But the academic rot coming out of our universities has well and truly seeped in. To be fair, they do note that they need these individuals to screen female passengers respectfully. So, if you're biologically male but female identifying, apply for this job today, so you too can be screening female passengers respectfully. Here's another one from Western Australia for Water Corporation, Policy and Truth-Telling Team Leader. Of course, anyone can tell the truth, right? Wrong. The ad states, this position is pursuant of the Equal Opportunity Act. The occupant of this position must be of Australian, Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander descent. Yes, apparently your DNA is the most important factor when it comes to truth-telling. The irony is not lost on me that the so-called Equal Opportunity Act is the very tool used to legalise racial exclusion. But some of you might argue, truth-telling is a lived experience requirement that only a specific group can fulfil. Okay, well what about this job ad posted by Manpower, Aboriginal identified engineer in Parramatta? There is absolutely nothing in this ad that suggests this job has anything to do with culture or heritage. Apparently, even technical proficiency is now subject to identity politics. Not only is this blatant discrimination on full display, it's government sanctioned. This is the Qantas Careers website. Again, as you can see in the promotional photo, their target demographic is abundantly clear, and it certainly isn't Caucasian men. Their pilots are portrayed as female. Their engineers and maintenance team consist of women and people of colour, and they of course celebrate the LGBT community. They advocate for gender inclusion, which, judging by their own imagery, is clearly corporate speak for women only. And just one more, which many of you have sent in variations of. Often when you apply for a job in modern Australia, you're met with a series of questions similar to this. These are from an IT job in a major hospital in Melbourne. They ask about your current gender identity, as if that's a changeable thing, along with your ethnicity, cultural groups, sexual orientation, native language, religion, nationality, Indigenous status, and whether you have a disability. They of course preface this by saying they are an equal opportunity employer, that you are not required to provide the requested information, and that your decision will have no effect on the company's employment decision. Okay, then why ask it? If they're truly an equal opportunity employer, why the need to include these questions at all? The candidate's technical skills should be the only data point that matters. They get away with this, of course, by making it optional. If they forced people to answer these questions, it would be an open and shut case of workplace discrimination. However, the fact that they're asking them at all clearly suggests they're using the data to influence their hiring decisions, despite claiming the exact opposite. If it's not that, then what is it? The only logical conclusion is that they are using this information to filter out candidates, specifically heterosexual Caucasian men, so that they can meet their internal diversity targets. So we wonder why Australia has a social cohesion problem. We've allowed the government and our academic elites to replace our shared national identity with a collection of competing tribes. This government-sanctioned discrimination that targets the majority can only result in one thing: the total collapse of the fair go and the birth of a very real and very dangerous social resentment.